let's flip the script a little and do something that goes totally viral. So what we're going to do is you're going to hold this healthcare.gov sign, and we'll give you Pharrell's hat. All right, and an e-cigarette to vape on, all right? BuzzFeed is going to eat this up. 3, 2, 1.
And it's...
Okay, got it.
Saturday Night Live having some fun with the president's push for Obamacare. The White House is touting a surge in enrollments, but does that really mean the plan will succeed? The Roundtable weighs in on that and all the week's politics after this from ABC's Jeff Zeleny.
From the courts to the campaign trail.
Obamacare. 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 Obamacare.
One word is driving the political debate. The final day to enroll is coming up tomorrow.
There is no delay beyond March 31st.
Well, not exactly. The Obama administration's now saying you can ignore tomorrow's deadline if you've had trouble signing up and need more time to buy insurance. That decision reignited Republican outrage.
What the hell is this, a joke? It's basically become the legal equivalent of Swiss cheese.
All this putting Democrats back on the defensive. You've been very critical over the past months of the Obama administration's rollout. Why is this latest extension not the same thing?
The rollout was really bad, but let's look at what's happened since that. We have millions of people who have signed up, millions.
The administration says at least 6 million people have already signed up. 1 million short of the original goal. All this adding fresh fuel to a fight already shaping the midterm elections.
I'll help repeal Obamacare.
For this week, Jeff Zeleny, ABC News, the Capitol.
Roundtable is here. Our political analyst, Matthew Dowd. David Plouffe, he served as President Obama's campaign manager and senior strategist in the White House. Bill Kristol, editor of the Weekly Standard and Democratic strategist, ABC consultant. Donna Brazile, welcome to you all. And Matthew, let me start with you. You heard in the piece there, Jeff Zeleny says the White House announces over 6 million. I saw some numbers this morning. The signups could be approaching closer to 7 million by the deadline tomorrow. So is this a sign of success?
Well, there is some sign of success in this for everybody that's criticized this. There are people that are getting access to this. There are people that are benefiting from this. But I think the question on this is, I think, first of all, that the political idea about this is it's now become detached from the president. Even if this succeeds, I think the president's job approval and where he stands in the country has now become more attached to the economy and less attention to Obamacare. But the question becomes, I think Republicans and some Democrats have asked, is at what cost are these successes? Do we have these successes? Because when 5 years from now, there's the projections are that health care will still be rising, the cost of health care will still be rising, and there will probably be 30 million people without access.
David Plouffe, what's the answer to that?
The law is working. And this was a seminal achievement. You're going to have, by the way, if you count people who are going directly to private insurance companies, Medicaid, children's health care, you're talking well north of 10 million people have health care, tens of millions and more have security. And the politics of this are tough. They're always going to be tough. I think they'll get better over time. This law is working. And I think the Republican playbook of just repeal Obamacare, repeal Obamacare, repeal Obamacare gets tougher as more and more people get health care. And I think smart Republicans understand that.
Isn't that true?
Yeah, two things are true. No actual Democratic senator running for re-election sounds like David Plouffe. They are not saying this law is working. They're saying, oh my God, we can fix it. Here's some new proposals. Senator Mark Warner, Mark Begich, others unveiled a whole bunch of proposals to, quote, fix Obamacare this week.
The Republican House will never do that, though, right?
Well, I don't think the Democratic Senate will do it. I don't think the Obama administration supports those proposals. They've resisted every attempt to do minor fixes and delays in Obamacare, except the ones they unilaterally decide on. So, first of all, I think in the real world of real politics, the Democratic senators know that it's a big problem for them. But I totally agree. If Republicans simply, and I've looked at a lot of polling over the last week or two on this, some of it private polling, good polling, I think. If Republicans simply say, get rid of it, and let Democrats have the keep it and fix it position, then even then it's sort of 50-50, but then I think Democrats neutralize the issue. If Republicans run on repeal and replace, or really, let's say replace and repeal, it has to be done at once. You can't just throw people out. But we are going to give you tax credits. We're going to take care of pre-existing conditions as part of the repeal. Then the polling shows that becomes very, very popular.
I think the Republicans are going to have a hard time trying to find their voice and get a message on repeal or replace at this juncture. And for Democrats who I think are running in these so-called tough states, they're going to have a tough time running from so-called affordable health care for all people. I think the real problem right now, George, is in these states where the Republican governors are still holding up Medicaid expansion. And soon enough, there are going to be questions. Why are you keeping people from getting health care that they need to save their lives, to save the state money? That's going to be the real conversation this fall. No question Democrats, at the retail level want to pivot back to the economy. They don't want to have to explain all of the so-called Republican talking points, but they're not going to be able to run away from this.
Echoing that
issue.
point, Bill Clinton's coming out this week saying Democrats should not run away from Obamacare.
Well, I think in the end, the 2014 election, if you look at the fundamentals of the election, is really not going to be about Obamacare. There's flaws in it. There's successes in it. I think everybody can debate that. I think Republicans have made a mistake by not acknowledging some success in it. I think they're not even asking the right question. The right question is, at what cost? I agree with Bill on this, is that they should be coming up with a plan, but anybody can have success if you dump billions and billions and billions of dollars in this. But 2014 is going to be about the direction of the country, the economy, and how people feel in their lives. It's not going to be about Obamacare.
I agree with that. I think the big issue for 14 is even less atmospheric. It's about where these contests are held. Democrats playing a lot of away games in the Senate. But even in these tough states, we did this against Mitt Romney. You can have an argument about health care, which is about there are some things we should fix about it, but you're going to have seniors now pay more for prescription drugs. You're going to kick kids off health care plan. You're going to kick millions of people off health care plan. That is not a winning message. I think Democrats need to be a little more aggressive about selling the positive parts of the law. And by the way, not just those that are covered. The people who already have coverage are getting a lot of benefits, saving a lot of money.
Most of it hadn't gotten into effect when you defeated Mitt Romney, and now it has gone into effect. Seniors are seeing cuts in Medicare Advantage that were only hypothetical when Mitt Romney ran.
And they're saving
that's
thousands of dollars in prescription.
I'm happy to have a referendum on Obamacare, and I think it will be, incidentally. I disagree with Matthew on that. I think it will be a referendum on Obamacare and will be good for Republicans.
I want to move on to Chris Christie. I had that internal report. We saw the author of it here, clearing him of any wrongdoing. He also started to get back on political offense, speaking out to Diane Sawyer about whether or not this whole matter has hurt his political prospects.
I am a passionate, loving, caring, direct truth teller. That's who I am. And for some people, they love it. And I will tell you, when I travel around New Jersey, I hear from most people that that's the thing they love the most.
And what about Iowa?
Oh, well, I think they love me in Iowa, too, Diane. I've been there a lot. I think they love me there, too.
I know that caught your eye, Bill Kristol. A reality check on how much of a difference this has made. He says he's going to make the decision next year and has not held him back. In fact, he's learned from it, could make him a stronger candidate.
Well, as a fellow compassionate, loving, caring truth teller, I don't know.
Who's loved in Iowa?
Yeah, and I'm loved in Iowa, New Jersey, many other places. People tell me that all the time. I mean, I don't know. Maybe that's not the best way to approach your problem. I'm struck by this, talking to some Republicans over the last week or two. This has hurt Chris Christie, there's no question. It doesn't mean he can't be a very strong presidential candidate, but the momentum he had 2 or 3 months ago looked like he was going to be sort of the consensus choice of establishment Republicans, of a lot of the Republican donors. That has, I think, he's lost a lot of that. Jeb Bush, I mean, everyone's now, if you talk to your average Republican donor on the establishment side, it's suddenly much more of the talk is about Jeb Bush, and people are worried about Chris.
I want to get into that because the Washington Post had a front page story this morning saying the GOP elite hoping to lure Jeb Bush. Many donors view him as the best 2016 pick. And here's this nut graph, Matthew. I want to say this to you. Many, if not most, 2012 GOP nominee Mitt Romney's major donors are reaching out to Bush and his confidants with phone calls, emails, invitations to meet. According to interviews with 30 senior Republicans, one bundler estimated that the vast majority of Romney's top 100 donors would back Bush in a competitive nomination fight. A lot of momentum there.
Well, this is a sign of two things, which is, first of all, it's the identity of Christie's fall, because if Christie hadn't fallen, then I don't think there'd be this outreach to Jeb Bush in the midst of this. The other thing is that the Republicans are so disorganized, in which they're not used to that, and who their nominee is. They're looking for the safe pick. In their mind, Jeb did a very good job as governor. He's a very good candidate. He's a safe pick. But to me, do we really want to set this race up in 2016, where 340 million Americans live, where it's Clinton versus Bush again? I think people are just tired of that. We have to have other candidates that don't have those two last names.
That may be, but you are seeing a lot of momentum behind both candidates right now, David Plouffe.
And listen, I think Bill and Matthew are the experts on the Republican nominating process, but my sort of amateur view of it is that I see the elites are gravitating to Bush now with Christie's fall, and I agree with Bill. He's not fatally wounded, but he's hurt. But that's not where the energy is in the voters in Iowa and South Carolina. And I think there could be so I think at the end of the day, there is going to be a lane for a Christie or Bush. They'll probably end up facing up against a more conservative candidate. I still think that more conservative candidate has the advantage in Republican primaries in 2016.
Donna Brazile, I see you nodding your head, but to back up this idea that a lot of Republicans are looking for this mainstream candidate, Sheldon Adelson, billionaire, one of the richest men in America, has a confab out in Las Vegas this weekend. All of the governors looking for it, including Chris Christie, going out there. He delivered $93 million to super PACs last year, probably spent a lot more on the side. This is a danger to Democrats, isn't it?
Oh, look, Sheldon Adelson put a lot of money behind a lot of losing candidates, Newt Gingrich, Mitt Romney, et cetera. He's looking for a winner. That's why the doors are now open to Jeb Bush. The real energy on the Republican side, I only know this because I travel in some Tea Party circles, is Rand Paul. I mean, Rand Paul is the talk of the town. He's the one going on campuses out west at UC Berkeley, going to Howard University, visiting historical black colleges and universities. He's trying to open up a dialogue within the Republican Party. Nobody wants to talk about him, but he has a network in all 50 states, so that's the game change on the Republican side.
Bill Kristol, every Republican going out and talking to Sheldon Adelson this week was kind of taking jabs at Rand Paul.
Yeah, look, I think ultimately message trumps money, or money follows message. And Rand Paul, I don't agree with him. I don't think he'll be the nominee, but I give him credit for having a real message that he pushes, wherever he is.
I think you have to keep your eye on Rand Paul. He's very energetic. He's got a bunch of energy behind him. He's one of the only candidates where younger voters are enthusiastic about. But I think I'm going to just go with something what Bill just said. I think it's ridiculous that these candidates for president are trumping out to Las Vegas to go kiss the ring of a billionaire casino owner, and they think that's somehow going to help them get elected president. They would be much.
Money is going to help them.
Well, I think money matters so much less than if your own capacity as a candidate, what is your message, what's your vision for the country? They'd be much better off spending time back in where they live instead of flying to Las Vegas and figuring out what's their message, what's their vision, and how they're going to convey that to the American public.
Final question I want to get to is this issue of NSA reforms. President Obama came out this week and announced that the government would no longer collect and hold this bulk phone data, said it would stay with the telephone companies absent a specific request from the government.
Some of the dangers that people hypothesized when it came to bulk data, there were clear safeguards against, but I recognize that people were concerned about what might happen in the future with that bulk data. This proposal that's been presented to me would eliminate that concern.
Donna Brazile, the president answering the critics there, but is this mend it, don't end it approach enough to save the program?
I don't think so, George. First of all, I'm glad that the president is ending the program. It was set to expire on Friday this past week. He's asking for a 90-day extension. The ACLU said, fine, but you know what? There are still other reforms that needs to be taken. There are, of course, proposals on Capitol Hill that would not just end it, but end it completely, so the phone companies will not have to carry and hold on to this data as well.
This could be heading that way, couldn't it?
Well, I've watched some of this with some incredulousness because, first of all, we're supposed to trust a government that didn't tell us what was going on for years and years and years and how many records they were accessing and what they were looking at in the American public. And now we're somehow supposed to trust the federal government led by the President of the United States. He says, here's what we're not going to do anymore. I think the country is just so fed up with so many different things, but the least of which, they don't trust anybody in Washington telling them what they're not or not doing in this case.
No, I think this is a smart accommodation. We still need access to this. I mean, George, you had a security clearance. I had it. I think, Bill, you had it. You see these intelligence reports. This is the fundamental first priority of any chief executive. So this still allows the administration, any administration, if they've got reason of concern, to access this information, but now through a court order. But I think it's a smart adjustment not to have the government hold this anymore. But I still think the phone companies have to have that, and the government's got to have quick access to it. Now, Congress has to act here, and it'll be interesting to see what they do in the coming
Will
weeks.
they act?
I don't know. There's a good bipartisan proposal by the chairman and ranking member of the House Intelligence Committee, which does try to protect the country. People should go back before they pop off about the NSA and reread the 9/11 Commission report, the failure to connect the dots.
Some good advice right there.